Feel the seat underneath you. Feel yourself sinking down into it, enfolding you.
Where do we even begin with Antichrist? By Lars von Trier. This movie is like the heavens themselves decided to implode. The Cannes premiere. It wasn't just an event, it was an earthquake. 4 viewers fainted. 50 critics ran screaming, and the rest, who stuck around, were throwing hats in the air. Scholars and cinephiles are still dissecting this film like it's an ancient manuscript. Some curse it, others call it a masterpiece. Welcome to the Lars von Trier experience. Spoiler alert. A psychoanalyst, Willem Dafoe, and his wife, Charlotte Gainsbourg. Well, they go at it. All over their house while the washing machine hums in the background. Meanwhile, their child casually falls to his death from a window.
Close your eyes. Tell me what you see.
The wife faints at the funeral, and spends a month in the hospital. The husband decides to treat her with the most ridiculous method.
It was my fault. I want to die too.
Stay with me. Stay with me. Your thoughts distort reality. That's what fear is. Let's make a list of things you're afraid of. Where would you feel most exposed?
The woods.
What scares you about the woods?
He soon discovers the wife's greatest fear stems from a place called Eden, their summer home, where she was writing a dissertation on the murder of women. Yup, that's a thing. They drive to this house.
I think he gives you too much medication.
Dr. Wayne says you want me back home.
But guess what? The wife passes out cold, and the therapist spots a dead fawn hanging halfway out of its mother. Just your average day. But wait, her condition worsens. The forest outside is an uncanny, mystical place. Acorns are shooting at the roof like bullets. No biggie. The husband wakes up to find ticks on his arm, and a fox is spitting out some divine wisdom. Meanwhile, rifling through his wife's dissertation, Dafoe unpacks that it's an unreadable mess, concluding that women are evil, and psychotherapists are frauds.
I heard a sound, the cry of all the things that are to die.
That's what fear is. Your thoughts distort reality. You have to have the courage to stay in the situation that frightens you.
Now, let me tell you something. Explaining the entire plot is a crime against the internet. Like, seriously, don't even. It's one of those you just have to experience it situations. Well, it's not really about the plot here, you know? But as German Dulac famously said in her essay Visibility of Cinema, a film cannot be fully retold, just like no piece of art, whether it's a sculpture or a painting. The beauty of Antichrist isn't just in the plot, but in all the cinematic moves the director pulls off. And that's exactly what sets von Trier apart from the rest of the pack. As for films similar to Antichrist, it is worth mentioning films like Irreversible by Gaspar Noé, Titan by Julia Ducournau, and Cargo 200 by Alexei Balabanov. Lars von Trier may have slightly exaggerated at Cannes when he called himself the greatest director in the world. But, I mean, he might just be in the top 3. And according to Lars himself, Antichrist is the crowning glory of his entire career.
Would you please, for my benefit, explain and justify why you made this movie?
I don't think I have to justify.
Yes, you do.
Yes, I do.
Yes, you do. This is the Cannes Film Festival, and you brought your film here, and you have to explain why you made it. Please do so. Thank you.
I think it's a very strange question, and I am the best film director in the world.
The film was shot in just 40 days, from August 20th to September 2008, in the misty wilderness of Germany, and with Handel's music. Charlotte Gainsbourg, daughter of Jane Birkin and Serge Gainsbourg, was so desperate for the role that she literally walked up to Lars and said, "I must have this role, no matter what it takes." And then she got it. The American Astronaut is a total vibe, blending a crazy mix of Flash Gordon and Ed Wood. Directed by Cory McAbby, who's not just behind the camera but also writes, stars, and even sings, the film features trippy set designs and a reckless narrative that feels like it was made on a shoestring. It's got that offbeat energy that makes it stand out.
Hey boy, I heard it from a friend about you, that your heart is broken and your anger's smoking and you lie there poking and a little choking up taste on the pipe. You let out a sigh, tears fill your eye, and you start to cry.
But fair warning, it's juvenile. Humor can be a little extra at times. Shot in black and white, the flick was filmed in just 27 days on a tight budget. McAbby really brings that indie spirit to life, mixing music, western, and sci-fi genres all while roasting space hero and cowboy cliches.
Every day and everywhere, yes! Yes, and don't you know that I love it so? For me, American Astronaut.
The plot follows Samuel Curtis, an interplanetary trader who's on some weird missions across places like Ceres and Venus, surrounded by a wild cast of characters, absurd dialogue, and humor that hits you when you least expect it. The film absolutely slaps when it comes to its eccentricity, with standout moments like the Hertz donut joke and a quirky dance-off.
5 years later, Mr. Stevenson asked another boy about his same age at that time if he would like a Hertz donut. When the boy said yes, Mr. Stevenson stabbed him over and over again in his eye and his cheek with a pencil, saying Hertz donut.
The plot? Yeah, it's kinda nonsense, but the off-the-wall characters and handmade special effects make this a totally one-of-a-kind experience.
Gentlemen, I give you the boy who actually saw a woman's breast!
Call the police! There is something walking around inside my face. I've got thick black stuff under my nails.
Men is a rambunctious Yugoslav comedy directed by Slobodan Šijan. It is based on Dusan Kovacevic's play. The Topalovic family is a sixth-generation line of undertakers, profiting from the dead by grave robbing. And they're all men. Apparently, according to some mystical family rule, all the mothers mysteriously die after giving birth.
Šta je ovo? 2 metra i 28 centimetra.
Dužina?
Kakva dužina?
Onog pokojnika, tata.
2 metra i 28 centimetra.
Da.
Tebe čovjek ne može nigdje da pošalje. Idiota jedan, gde si vidio čoveka sa tolikom dužinom? Šeprka jedna, pa oči ti ispala, gde si vidio? Jer ti ne umeš da uzmeš i najobičniju meru, jel? Tunce ti jebem.
Neću više da budem proban!
Slušta se ti ovo, slušta ti. Laka!
Pa sunce li ti jebem, Žarko?
Kuću sramotiš, mušterije rasterujete.
Tata!
Milutin, šta se dereš? Čim malo prilegnem posle ručka. Vi se razgalamite, razderete, razlupate. Evo i tatu ste mi probudili. Jeste, tata. Sad sam im baš to rekao, ali gospodo, malo ste se zajebali. Nas dvojica smo neumištivi. Ko na nas krene, iz mesta je najbo.
Mirko, the baby of the family, is totally fed up and dreams of running off with Christina, the old-maid daughter of a sleazy perp Billy Python. But Christina's career as a piano accompanist is also being wiped out by the arrival of sound films. The family business is actually in total shambles. For the past 20 years, they haven't been making new funeral products. They've been digging up and reselling old coffins, thanks to Billy Python and his gang of grave-robbing goons. Oh, and they owe him a shitload of money. The family's last hope is their brand new electric crematorium, which they think will totally turn things around. But their plans suffered a blip. The film opens with 1934 newsreel footage showing the assassination of King of Yugoslavia, Alexander. The point: the Yugoslav monarchy is falling apart, and so is the family. So, the Topalovic family is Yugoslavia itself. The film's 6 generations of the Topalovic family, not 3, not 7, mirror, on the one hand, the generational crisis in Yugoslavia, and on the other hand, the 6 republics of Yugoslavia, Serbia, Slovenia, Croatia, Herzegovina, Macedonia, and Montenegro. Although, in form, all the republics of Yugoslavia were deemed equal, some were regarded as senior, whilst others were considered subordinate. It looks like the movie deals with the past, but in fact, it deals with the future. The family's chaotic drama foreshadows the Yugoslav wars to come. Grave robbing and unearthing corpses serve as a symbol of Yugoslavia's obsession with resurrecting the past. In this sense, Marathon Man is very similar to the film Underground by Emir Kusturica, where Yugoslavs are making weapons in a basement, still thinking they're at war with the Nazis. By the way, Dusan Kovacevic also wrote the screenplay for that film. I shall refrain from revealing the many most unexpected twists that befall the viewer of Marathon Man, so as not to deprive him of the delightful pleasure that this movie affords. Evolution, 2015. France, Spain, and Belgium. Directed by Lucile Hadzihalilovic. Plot: women conduct experiments on boys on a remote island. An ancient British proverb says, "Every mother thinks her own gosling a swan," but the women in the film, who conduct experiments on the boys on a remote island in the Atlantic Ocean, beg to differ. They think that the boys are either starfishes or dolphins. To prove this, they perform surgical operations, grow them in tubes, swim with them underwater and give painful injections. A traditional review is not for a movie as spellbinding as Evolution, the second feature from French director Lucile Hadzihalilovic. It tells about an island of boys and the adult women who bring them up. The Lucile Hadzihalilovic's film, Innocence, was also very cryptic. Innocence was about a panel of young girls who were trained to be elegant ladies and ballet dancers in a spooky boarding school. As far as Evolution is concerned, it is a quirky experience that combines the visual style of metaphysical painting of Giorgio de Chirico and Odd Nedrum, with thematic motifs of the Annunciation, a film directed by Andras in the communist Hungary in 1984. Of course, the enigmatic imagery may make a shitload of viewers beyond livid as it leads the audience into an eschatological maze and leaves them to perish there without mental food and cognitive water. Yet, for all that, Evolution is a mind-blowing film, available to anyone willing to peek into our possible future. Apart from that, I would like to highlight the magnificent work of the Belgian cinematographer Manuel de Cos. The movie is dripping of innocence, skillfully emphasized by green, turquoise and azure light. Hadzihalilovic, perhaps unwittingly, showcases a metaphor of the brave new world. Men may become guinea pigs under the care of female doctors, kind-hearted nurses in closed facilities. In the modern cinema, an idea gained traction that it would be wise and proper if boys became blue-tolerant Navi, transgender Neanderthals, or even sea monsters rather than bearded men with stinky bollocks and a fat belly. Take for example, Avatar by James Cameron, Border by Uli Obossi, or The Shape of Water by Guillermo del Toro. The venerable Norwegian playwright Henrik Ibsen said that the task of art is to pose questions rather than to answer them. In this respect, Evolution is an awesome piece of art, and Lucile is a brilliant artist. She poses difficult questions about of the life to come. Thus, Hadzihalilovic awakens a whole universe of imagination in the viewers. In 1780, the carriage of Count Cagliostro, the supreme hierarch of existence, and his sidekicks crosses the border of Russia in order to present magical abilities. Having kidnapped a young noblewoman Maria Ivanovna under the pretext of treating her father, Cagliostro takes the lady to himself. The Count wants to enchant Maria with the help of an occult formula of love, but to no avail. In a provincial estate, where the travelers happen to be, lives a young and feisty landowner Alyosha, who is in love with a marble statue. With the help of Cagliostro, he hopes to revive the statue, but the encounter of Maria Ivanovna changes everything. Mark Zakharov is a superstar of the Russian cinema. He ranks among the top 10 most famous film helmers in that country. Lines from his comedies, primarily written by Grigory Gorin, such as The Very Same Munchausen, An Ordinary Miracle, Formula of Love, The 12 Chairs and To Kill a Dragon have become part of the Russian language.
Где ваша родина? Не знаю. Я родился на корабле, но куда он плыл и откуда, никто не помнит. А вы где родились, Жакоб? А я вообще еще не родился. Не родились? Нет. И как вы дальше думаете? Ну, вообще, мне предстоит целая цепь рождений, в результате которой я явлюсь миру принцем Уэльским. Да. Правда, это будет не скоро, через пару сотен лет в 20 столетии. Так мне обещал мистер Калиостро. Поэтому мое нынешнее существование для меня не имеет никакого значения. А для меня имеет. В будущем я буду котом. Поэтому мне дорог каждый час.
Yet the kicker is that nobody knows Mark Zakharov outside of Russia. He belongs to a rare category of local celebrities, akin to Slobodan Šijan in Yugoslavia or Çağan Irmak in Turkey, who made movies with illusions that are often unfathomable to a foreign audience. First and foremost, Zakharov is a theatrical director. For many years he led the trendiest theatre in the USSR, Lenkom. There, he staged a jaw-dropping rock opera Juno and Avos, which caused a scandal with its evangelical themes among the leadership of the Communist Party. Starting from 1981, this musical has remained a staple of the theatre's repertoire. The New York Times reports that Juno and Avos is on track to surpass The Fantastics as the world's longest-running musical. The composer of the musical is Alexei Rybnikov. Consequently, Zakharov's films are incredibly similar to his campy theatrical productions. Everything sings, dances and explodes there.
Я вчера глядела в колодец, и видением не наших мест мне привиделся флаг наводец, на мундире заморский крест.
Zakharov's comedies are more or less based on a confrontation of an aristocrat of spirit and stupid commoners and dumb kings, easily recognizable as the Soviet Philistines and the Soviet leadership. This is exemplified by a brilliant con artist, Ostap Bender in The 12 Chairs, the wizard in An Ordinary Miracle, or Sir Lancelot in To Kill a Dragon. The so-called aristocrat of spirit is far superior to the dull commoners and goofy noblemen. There is an existential abyss between them. Such is the case with Cagliostro at the beginning of Formula of Love. The Count is a ventriloquist, a Freemason, and a mystic. Cagliostro claims to have been born in Mesopotamia 2,125 years ago. He conjures fire from his fingers, eats forks, and believes that reason is subject to feelings. Feelings are subject to the heart, and the heart is subject to reason. The circle is complete. We began with reason and ended with reason. Thus, it turns out that the entire universe is essentially a game of his mind. Unfortunately, in Formula of Love, Zakharov betrays himself. He falls into a kind of jingoistic patriotism and sides with the common man. In the unpolished Russia, the great master gets owned. The occultism of Cagliostro and the hedonism of his sidekicks drowns in the absurdity of the Russian existence. The comedy suggests that all foreigners are fools, while all Russians are wise as serpents. The Formula of Love marked a significant turning point in Zakharov's development. He began as an opponent of the communist regime and had issues with the Soviet authorities. He was the first to burn his Communist Party membership card in front of TV cameras in 1990. However, many years passed and everything changed. In public, Zakharov became a supporter of Putin. But most likely he decided that discretion is the better part of valor. Thus, he chose the fate of Count Cagliostro rather than that of Baron Munchausen. Andras Jeles's The Annunciation is one of the quirkiest films in cinema history, with almost every role played by children. These aren't ordinary kids, though. They're little angels who discuss complex theological concepts like homoiousianism with ease. Adam and Eve are portrayed by children, whose innocence adds an ironic twist to their fall from grace. And Lucifer, a little girl, plays him. Lucifer despises humanity, whom God loves despite their ignorance. He offers Adam and Eve the forbidden apple, and they find themselves cast out of Eden. Adam, confused, recalls Lucifer's promise, "You said I would understand everything." Lucifer smirks, replying, "Here you go." The film is based on The Tragedy of Man by Hungarian writer Imre Madash. This play premiered in 1883, despite it was written in 1859, was staged for the first time on September 21, 1883, at the National Theatre in Budapest. Due to its scale, philosophical depth, and complex staging, it took more than 20 years to hit the stage. When it was finally performed, it swooped in like a bomb. A philosophical masterpiece. The play explores the futility of human progress through history. Madash critiques the Hegelian idea that history moves in a linear, purposeful direction. In the film, Adam and Eve aren't just the first humans, they're time travelers who cycle through different historical epochs. Adam shifts identities. One moment he's a knight in Constantinople, the next, he's Georges Danton. In revolutionary Paris, a quirky jumble of historical figures ensues. Eve remains his companion, embodying both beauty and fatalism. Adam, disillusioned by history's grand ideas, always declares, "It's a lie," before being left with nothing. In the film, only 4 meta-civilizations are explored, as opposed to the 6 in the play. Adam and Eve's journey takes them through civilizations and ages, exploring the cyclical nature of human mistakes. In each era, Adam is hopeful but inevitably falls victim to false ideologies. It's a mush of progress, setbacks, and delusions. The characters may look young, but their words carry wisdom. Heraclitus declares, Everything flows. Kepler's tragic discovery centers the sun, and George's Danton fights for liberty. Through these characters, Jeles suggests that history is a cycle of repeated failures. Perps of history, just as clueless as ever. And what happens next? Oh, the miracle of ontological transformation. Just a moment ago, Adam was contemplating a fall from the cliff of existence. But now, he stands tall, chest puffed out, and exclaims, "No, I'll stay." And the Lord, sitting on his throne in the universe, speaks from the heavens. His manifesto rings out, tragicomic, yet solemn. "I told you, man, fight, and, with hope, trust." Lucifer, livid, humiliated, grunts and fades into the shadows. Because in this wondrous film, the real power isn't in reason, will, or even the plot, it's in love and hope, embodied by the gentle but resolute Eve. True cinema is about so much more than what's just playing out on the surface of the screen. Great art, not just cinema, is layered and deep like the ocean, where every moment and wave carries hidden meanings, contradictions, and powerful insights. It's exhilarating to think back breathlessly to Chekhov's underwater currents in literature or Hopper's masterpiece Midnight in painting, the pinnacle of book delicacy and feminine grace. However, can be found in the 1963 film Young Aphrodites, a creation of the Greek director, Nikos Kunduros, whose name is revered in the world of art. This film, a spellbinding adaptation of the ancient novel Daphnis and Chloe by Longus, is so old that, according to legend, centaurs still roamed the earth and the first words of the story were carved into the thigh of Athena herself. Allow me to remind you of the plot of Longus' novel. On the island of Lesbos, a shepherd discovers a baby being nursed by a goat. 2 years later, by the laws of ancient custom, another shepherd finds a similar gift of fate, this time, a girl. This, presumably, was an ancient form of adoption. In the film, the boy is named Skynos, as if he were born from Homer's metaphorical bow, embodying the timeless myth. The movie unfolds against the backdrop of ancient Hellas. From the dark, unknown innards of northern Macedonia, a tribe of shepherds, exhausted and ratty, approaches the sea. It seems as though Dionysus himself has drained all the waters from the Balkan Peninsula, leaving only a single well, perched at the very edge of the Mediterranean. But in this arid, yet tantalizing corner, they encounter a tribe of delicate young fisherwomen, endlessly waiting for their elusive husbands to return from the sea. Here begins the most enchanting of games. For in one tribe, the men are at sea, and in the other, the women dwell in the mountains. And all of this is just as in the finest traditions of Greek tragedy. If I may be so bold, I would say a seductive chess game unfolds here, but none of the players dares to make the first move. And so, in this exquisite and tender anticipation, 4 anomalies appear on the screen. 1. The devoted wife Artur, her eyes dripping with silent prayer. She is not just a woman. She is the silence itself that should have been spoken to. 2. The seasoned shepherd, Sikalos, his body full of tragic meat. His will in jackets symbolizes the very weight of antiquity. 3. Skynos, the boy whose eyes are filled with boundless skies and hope. 4. Chloe, the maiden whose breath is like a light wind. Between these characters and among pelicans, goats, and pigeons, something truly quirky starts to unfold. They engage in a communion of friendship, performing ancient ritual duels on stones, bathing in the clear waters, and pledging eternal fidelity beneath the shadow of an ancient aspen tree. It is the law of the time, when both shame and playful irresponsibility intertwine in a recondite web, and all of it serves merely as a stage for the gullible slumber into which the characters drift. Now, if you will permit me, I must describe how the camera tenderly caresses the sea, It floods the frames so completely that the sensation is as if the film were not shot on celluloid but spread across an aquarium watercolor cloth. In these close-up shots, each detail seems to come to life, and the director, with remarkable finesse, isolates the most intimate corners of existence, viewing them with a sense of homely warmth and significance. This practice is inspired by the words of the great cinema theorist Guido Aristakisyan, who once said,
"Two films with the same action, the same performances, and the same wide shots, but differing in their use of close-ups, will always express not just two versions of the same story, but two completely distinct understandings of life."
The characters, without a hint of fatigue, incessantly drink water, almost as if it were their sole form of sustenance. They drink it, they splash it, and their bodies vibrate like half-damped seagulls in the rain. The film's costume designer was none other than the director's mother, and the lack of elaborate costumes was in no way a limitation, for there were as many garments as there were inches in the ancient moral fabric of the time. The film is shot in black and white, but the effect is that of a burst of colorful poetry. The dreamlike quality, of course, manifests in every detail: cheeks tinted with the color of raspberries, shoulders in the shade of cocoa, eyes like candlelight, brimming with shine and confusion. But alas, who could shadow this fragile world? Ah, here he comes. The boy, dark and foreboding, named Samyaza. His name rings with the resonance of an apocryphal shadow, as if it were woven into the darkest lines of a lost manuscript. He is the embodiment of the anxieties and tremors of the future. How else could his presence in this world, where even the pastoral winds breathe with such flightiness, be explained? The Peasants blends not just painting and animation, but also live-action footage, and somehow, this mix hits the viewer like a ton of bricks. Dropped in 2023, this historical drama comes from the minds of D.K. Welshman and Hugh Welshman, the same duo behind Loving Vincent. It is one of the most labor-intensive films ever made. First, it was shot digitally using high-flying drones. The aesthetic is exquisite, with visual nods to young Poland painters like Józef Chelmonski, Ferdynand Ruszczyk, and Leon Weixelkowski, and the French artist Jean-François Millet. Think partridges in the snow and grain harvesters. Then came the animation marathon, 100 artists from Poland, Serbia, Ukraine, and Lithuania, fueled by coffee. And the spirit of Jean-François Millet hand-drew 56,000 frames over 5 years, hammering away every day and night, 4 hours per frame. It was like climbing Everest with paintbrushes instead of ice axes, and easels instead of oxygen bottles. Later, another 78 digital artists added in between frames. In total, about 1 million person-hours went into the film. The story is adapted from Władysław Reymont's novel The Peasants, the winner of the 1924 Nobel Prize, a 4-volume, 1,032-page agrarian epic that rivals Faulkner's Yoknapotórka sagas. Set in Liptsa, late 19th century Russian Poland, it centers on a brutal battle over 6 acres of land. Roughly half a football field. Land matters here. In the late 1800s, Polish provinces of the Russian Empire had a dire situation. Peasants had just 9 acres on the average, the worst in the entire empire. Nobles still owned 86% of the land, leaving peasants scraps. The movie covers everything a country melodrama needs: blood, love, rebellion, funerals, psychological trauma, and sour cabbage. The film, like the book, is structured around 4 seasons: autumn, winter, and spring, summer, but these aren't just times of year. They're 4 faces of the same unending loop in time. At the heart of it is the glorious Borina household and a tangled love polygon. Moche Borina is the patriarch, 58 years old, twice widowed, a powerhouse of rural life. He knows the innards of agriculture and cares deeply for his beloved cow, but dies like a tragic hero fatally struck in the head by a forester during an epic brawl over woodland. Yagna Pachashuvna is the village nymph, a 20-year-old girl who is dripping with enthusiasm, poetry, and irresistible charm. She marries Moche. For his chest of money, spends private time with Antek in a haystack during a festival, then with the village elder, and then flirts with a young seminarian, but to no avail. Antek Borina, Moche's son, married to Hanka with 3 kids. He cheats on Hanka with his stepmother Yagna, but by the end he rejects Yagna, jettisons his radical leanings, and learns to respect Hanka. Hanka Borina rises from poverty. Initially shamed by her husband, father-in-law, and a dog, she gains strength from Antek's betrayal and emerges as the real victor of the story. I won't spoil the twist. Let the audience feel the chill of revelation. What matters is this: the film, paired with Lukas Rostkowski's uncanny score, evokes an unshakable sense of time looping. No matter what the characters do, they end up squarely where they began. Moche and Antek's land disputes echo a predestination paradox. Every attempt to change anything only cements the status quo. Moche enforces order, Antek rebels, and by the film's end, Moche becomes his own father. Each season resets the board and starts it all over again. The peasants here are creatures of ritual and superstition. They don't just farm, they perform an endless ceremony their ancestors invented. They surrender unto dreams in autumn, sleep around and celebrate in ritualized abandon in winter, bury the dead in spring and harvest despair in summer. In the final reckoning, Moche, resembling an Old Testament prophet clad in sturdy boots, proclaims solemnly,
"As our forefathers lived, so shall we live, and so too shall our sons."
This cinematographic work does not concern itself with the past, but rather with the impossibility of the future. And therein lies its weirdness. Cowards Bend the Knee or The Blue Hands, a moving picture play by Mr. Guy Maddin, Canadian gentleman, exhibited in the year of our Lord 2003. Behold, a hockeyist, Mr. Guy Maddin, whose fiancée finds herself inconveniently with child. In haste, he escorts her to a dubious establishment, part beauty salon, part abortionist's den. Mid-operation, he abandons her, infatuated with Meta, the landlady's stepdaughter. Their love, like a crypt's gas lamp, flickers in the dark. Meanwhile, a museum hides behind wax, and a doctor gazes into a droplet of semen. Within, the final of the Allen Cup is played. Guy Maddin is carried from the ice as a brawl erupts. The maiden Veronica expires in the gynecological chair, forsaken, dissected, and forgotten. Meta, the daughter of a barber, seeks revenge. Her father, Blue of Hand, was dismembered by his wife, Lilium, and her lover, Captain Shaky. Shaky is both a policeman and a hockeyist. Meta demands vengeance before yielding her affections. A plan forms, absurd yet surgical. The good Dr. Fusey, part abortionist, part anatomist, agrees to sever Guy's hands and replace them with new, blue ones. The trade is made, blending revenge and identity, hockey and the sublime. Message, if one may dare suggest. All men are poets, particularly when asleep or dead. A dream defies syntax, it pirouettes over logic's grave. To capture a dream is to drink fog through a fork. But cinema. Only cinema can transpose the inner kaleidoscope to the screen. Mr. Maddin, a master of nightmares, has crafted a sonata for the absurd. Cowards Bend the Knee is silent, autobiographical, indecent, hilarious, and absurdly stylish. A film for those who love hockey, camp, and dreams. The gloves are off and so are the hands. Palms is a pseudo-documentary black-and-white film shot by Aristakisyan over 5 years in Chisinau, Moldova. When it premiered in Moscow in the early 1990s, it shocked audience. The film consists of 10 short stories about real people, beggars, psychiatric patients, oddballs, and others, who embody the concept of bodies without organs, as described by philosopher Gilles Deleuze. Among these characters are an unwashed woman who has supposedly laid on the ground for 40 years waiting for Jesus, a boy who vowed not to move until the kingdom of heaven arrives, an old woman who clings to the severed head of an SS officer, her lover, and a grandfather who collects trash from the dead. There's also a man named Srulik, who kisses a dove, evoking the Holy Spirit. Compared to the eccentric Russian films of parallel cinema or necrorealism, Palms is something else entirely. Unlike the ironic works of Yevgeny Ufit, Palms overflows with intense passion and austere ideology. Palms might seem detached from any specific cinematic tradition, but it shares thematic similarities with early Christian thought, including Pauline theology and the Bogomil heresy. The father in the film proclaims,
"This is the system. It doesn't have borders anymore. The system will find you wherever you go. So, kid, before it's too late, focus on your salvation. You have your own light. Use it, and you'll escape the system. For now, don't get distracted by all this nonsense. No, don't think about traveling abroad. After death, you'll have plenty of time to travel. Your next baptism will be by fire, and then it'll be too late to pick a side."
To the Paulicians, everything on earth was the work of Sataniel, the demiurge, the god of the Old Testament. Jesus Christ, in contrast, was the good God, made of subtle matter. They viewed Christ as a kind of phantom, not truly human, an idea known as Docetism, associated with Serapion of Antioch. Aristakisyan's concept of the system aligns with this Paulician world view. The system is not just a political structure, it's the entire material realm, factories, asylums, homes, and everything else. Ironically, Aristakisyan ridicules the vastness of outer space. The film critiques modernity with almost didactic intensity. Aristakisyan's vision of the system is a heady mix of conspiracy theory and mystical philosophy, creating an unsettling atmosphere. 30 years later, Russian ideologist Alexander Dugin would echo similar sentiments.
Outer space exploration is godless and shameful. It's a globalist fantasy preparing for the Antichrist. Outer space is an illusion. We need to stay faithful to Christ and the Russian land.
The film also recalls small, priestless sects that emerged in 18th century Russia, some of which still survive in remote regions. One such group, the Golbeshniki, believed society was the kingdom of Lucifer. They buried themselves in earthen dens, burned their children in dark rites, and danced naked in the moonlight. Despite its somber Paulician creed, the film conveys something greater. The muted hues, the dilapidated hovels of Chisinau, and the tranquil voice of Aristakisyan together weave a strange spell. The beauty of this otherworldly vision ensnares the soul, making it difficult to look away.